All right. Hey, everyone. Mark here. Sorry again, I'm running a bit behind. These things are a pain. All right. So let's get started. If you're new to the stream, welcome. I normally don't stream at 9:30 on a Monday, 9:30 a.m. Well, actually, it's 9:45. So 15 minutes into the market open here. Let me just get my charts together. I am still streaming at 3 p.m. Eastern time today, where I usually do my market analysis session. I'm still going to stream at that time. Maybe I'll move it to like 3:30 or something like that, but I'm still going to do that stream. But we're not going to do the Trade Scanner Pro in that stream because we're going to do that here. All right. So first thing I'm going to do is let's just change these charts over to the NASDAQ. I got my Bitcoin chart still up here. We're going to go to the NQ. All right. Actually, MNQ1 because we don't want the NQ. I mean, this thing's getting hammered. Okay. MNQ1. All right. Now I'm on the Tradeovate. I have my Tradeovate eval account from Apex. That's what I'm using here. All right. Let me adjust my microphone. All right. Hey, Monica, how are you? All right. Good to see you. Yeah. So like I said, I'm streaming at this time. We're gonna try to see if we can find some trades with the Trade Scanner Pro. I'm doing this 3 days a week. I'm not doing it every day. All my competitors stream. They stream every day and they stream like all day. I'm not doing that. Okay, so I'm trying to do the best that I can here. This is a 1 hour chart. We're going to change this to a 1 minute over here on this side. Now I have these moving averages, so I'm going to remove them. I'm just going to take them off the chart because I'm not using them. All right, and I don't want people to be confused. All right, now, and it's good, by the way, you don't want to trade the open itself, usually. Usually you want to wait like 15 minutes, right? To let the market figure some things out before arriving at any conclusions. Now, so when we're dealing with the Trade Scanner Pro, the first thing we want to do is we want to get a sense of which way we think the market's going, right? We want to get a sense of trend. So I usually go to my larger time frame. This is the daily chart over here. As you can see, right, we have this lower high, and we're basically in the process of pushing the low, the swing low. See, this is the swing low over here. I know my head is in the way, but this swing low, actually, I can make this chart bigger. The swing low over here is being compromised, right? But it doesn't mean that it's going to continue like this all day. In fact, this area right here, this area is a failed low area. It's a high probability reversal area. Knowing this, so we have no signs of reversal right now, but it's a location that we should be very open to for a reversal. And it could be a pretty sharp reversal. All right. Hey, Olatan, how are you? Okay, you're. I know I was supposed to start 15 minutes ago, so don't worry, you're on time. So why I'm pointing this out, this is really not that relevant for day trades, but I'm pointing this out because this is relevant for swing trades. And you better believe I'm very interested in buying some cues here. All right, I'm not going to get into details. We'll talk about that in the afternoon session. But this is a location for swing trades long. Now, the general trend is bearish, as I talked about in my Bitcoin analysis, which is very similar. The general trend is bearish, right, on the short term. But that doesn't mean that these things are going to continue lower and lower, right? It's very likely we get a bounce here. If you look at this bounce that we had 3 or 4 weeks ago, this bounce, that was a 30-point bounce on the Qs, okay? So we can reasonably get a 20, 30-point bounce again. Maybe it makes a lower low. Maybe we see the Qs at like 460, 450, whatever, okay? Something like that. But we may get another bounce. It's very likely, especially off of a failed low area. What we're missing right here is confirmation. That's why you don't just step in front of it. All right, now, that's the big picture. So the big picture is generally weak, but we are in an area where reversals is very likely. We have to keep that in the back of our head. Now, we're going to go to a 1 hour chart because the 1 hour chart is going to help me with my day trades, right? And what I'm looking for here really are just two things, trend and support and resistance levels. That's it. I don't care about the news. I don't care about all the nonsense that's on Twitter. Man, people just have, Everyone thinks their opinion is important. It's not going to help you with the market because the market is always right. It doesn't matter what people say. It doesn't matter economic this, economic that. I know that's counterintuitive, but the market knows more than we do all of the time because all the information in the world is being baked in price right now. So it doesn't matter what we think. It doesn't matter what's on Twitter. What matters is price right now. And the only information that's really going to matter is trend and support and resistance levels, because that's enough information to get a sense of what the market wants to do now, not what we think it's going to do. That's a very important concept. All right, so trend is bearish. There's no question. Lower highs, lower lows, and we're coming off of a lower low. So I should be working on the short side. That's it. Analysis over, okay? But now, what are my support and resistance levels? Now, that's another story. I mean, going back here on this hourly chart, I really don't have a whole lot to work with. We've blown level after level after level, and we're like in new low territory here. So the only support I have goes all the way back here, and it's broken. So that's going to be a resistance going forward. Also, these blue areas, see these light blue areas? That's pre-market, right? So our pre-market low is over here. We're below that. But the reason why I'm pointing it out is because that may be a relevant level going forward, at least for today. That could be a resistance level. So that's really all I have. I don't really have any support levels. Okay. The only argument that I can make for a support would be the low here that was established on this hourly candle. Okay. That's my only support level. That's all I got. Unless I'd have to go back really like far to find something. I mean, let's just take a look out of curiosity. Let's go to a 4-hour chart. I mean, look, I don't have anything here. Look, there's nothing until we go all the way back. Like, there's just nothing here. So our point of reference is going to be this. That's our support. All right, now, as we know, in a weak environment, low supports are likely to break, resistances are likely to hold. So that's going to help me shape probabilities as far as my trades go. All right, so that's pretty much all I need to know. All right, now let's go to my 1-minute chart over here, because for day trades, this is where we're taking trades. All right, now, so as you can see here, the momentum says bearish, right? Trend is bearish on my 1-minute. Now, I want to follow that because I'm not interested in counter trend here. I want to go with the momentum, okay? This is my 1-minute chart. I'm willing to look at a 30-second chart, okay? That's as low as I'm going to go. See the 30-second chart? We're getting a heads up. That's what this red area means, okay? That means in the next 3 to 5 candles, we're likely to get a signal. If we get a signal, I'm going to go short because it's looking for a short signal, and I'm going to take 2 contracts. All right, I'm setting up my order right here. I'm going to bang 2 contracts. These are micro lots, right? I'm not on mini lots. These are micro lots. My account, the eval account that I'm using for this stream is my $50,000 eval from Apex. I'm not an affiliate, so who you sign up with is your business. But I'm using a $50,000 eval account. All right, now the reason why I'm doing that is because I want to see if the Trade Scanner Pro can actually help me beat an evaluation. That's the whole goal here, right? So here, let me see if I could show you that real quick. Let me just go to let me go to this. Let me see, do I have that thing here? Yeah, I do. Okay, hold on. So let me just put this on here. And you guys should see like a block, okay, on my screen. That block that you see, it just moved. That block, that's the account block, okay? I have to put that there. Now, I don't know why I have to hide the account number, but I hide the account number. It's an eval account from Apex. I notice all the other streamers, they hide the numbers, okay? So if I go to Tradeovate over here, you'll see, right, the information is blocked. The account number information is blocked. Okay, hold on. Let me move it here like this. Okay, it's blocked. But you can see that it says Apex, right? Here, let me move that over. But it's clearly an eval. It's right. So there's no, there's no tricks here. You could see the money in the account. I had a nice trade on Friday. I had a short. I missed a huge profit in that short. If you watch Friday's stream, but I brought the account back. I was minus like $150, whatever. I made the money back. Okay, so you can see that's the number. I don't trade this account unless I'm on the stream. Okay, so that's why we're going to use this to see. Well, we're going to use this to see if I can beat the eval. Okay. Now, I suspect if I wanted to beat the eval quickly, then what I'd have to do is I'd have to trade big size and take big risks, which means the chances of reaching the daily loss limit would be very high, right? Because if I'm on mini lots, for example, sure, my goal, I have to reach $3,000. Okay, I haven't gone over all the details. If you go to the Apex website or most 50K accounts, they have a $3,000 profit objective. If I make $3,000, I beat the evaluation, and then they put me onto an account where I can actually take payouts on the profits that I make, right? That's the whole thing. I'm not going to get into all the details on prop firms, but so I have to make $3,000. Now, I know a lot of people are impatient and they're like, well, I want to make that money like in the next day or two. The only way to do that with this type of situation is you have to trade gigantic size, like mini lots. If I was putting on 2 mini lots, a trade would be like $2,000. That's great. But the problem is, if I'm wrong, I'm reaching the daily loss limit because I only have a daily loss limit of $2,500. If I lose $2,500, the eval is no longer good, and I have to buy another one. I have to, or I could reset the account, or I could buy another one, right? And spend another whatever, $30, $50, whatever it is. So that's the reason why this is attractive is because if I lose $2,500, it's not real money. I'm only actually losing, the cost of the eval. This is good for people who know what they're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, then you can spend a lot of money on evals, right? So you have to at least have some sort of structure in place that gives you a better chance of beating the evaluation. Now, understand the evaluation has what I like to call artificial parameters. They put all these rules and things on the eval so that you lose, because it is in their best interest for you to lose. I don't care what any prop firm says. I don't care how nice their owner is. They're betting their money against yours. And it's actually a very good bet because retail traders are very conventional. They're misled by tons of conventional information all over YouTube. Okay, teaching people, oh, ICT this and all this other nonsense that has no bearing on the real market, and you're just going to blow eval accounts all day long. So it's a good bet to bet against retail. Now, so you can't blame them. But the thing is, okay, there's our signal. All right, I just shorted 2 micro lots. Okay, let's see how it goes. What time is it? Okay, it's just before 10 o'clock. It's 2 minutes before 10 o'clock. The reason why I check the time is because of news items. All right, we'll get to that in a minute here. Now, if I get stopped out, let's see, my risk is 40 points. That's $80 per contract. That's $160 if I lose. If I win at the profit objective, I'm looking at 60 points. That's 100. What is that? 100. It's 80 each. No, 60 is 120. So it's $240 if I reach the profit objective because I have 2 contracts, right? So that's 1.5 to 1 reward risk. So if we reach the profit objective, I'm going to blow out of 1, and then I'm going to try to hold a winner. Okay, I'm going to try to ride a winner. Now, I made the mistake on Friday of getting out too early on my runner because I'm like, oh, I don't trust this. The market's going to reverse. Let me get out. And I missed a huge move. Huge. Now, that was just, look, that was the way the day played out because it was the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report just blew the market. It just really messed up the market. Hey, Samuel. Yeah, I see. ICT is there's so much information about the fraud. Okay, I mean, look, everyone's got to run a business. I get it, but just Google ICT, put ICT scam in YouTube, and watch all the videos that pop up. Okay, it's what ICT is nothing more than they're putting fancy words on things that are just conventional ideas. All they're doing is they're making it a lot more complicated than it is to make it seem like you're learning something. It's complete nonsense. Okay, nonsense. And he stole that stuff from Larry Williams, by the way. Okay, a lot of those concepts are probably from Larry Williams because the word ICT, that phrase ICT itself, comes from Larry Williams. Larry Williams was running some kind of program back in the 90s that this ICT guy, why he was part of. He was a student and he stole Larry's title. Okay, if you don't know who Larry Williams is, Google him. He's the guy that came up with the William percent R. I'm gonna have to blow this out. If it goes to that stop, I have to blow it out. Remember, this is a 30-second chart. So these moves are going to be erratic like this. So I'm just going to keep an eye on it. I'm prepared to blow it out. Now, it would be nice if I could just set the stop manually with the trade thing, but it's just too cumbersome right now. I'm not going to do that. But I would recommend to you, I'll just blow it out manually. But what I would recommend to you, set your stop loss in this panel right here. Just manually set it. It's usually a good idea. Okay. And the reason why that's I know I'm jumping around to a lot of things right now, but there's a lot of things I have to cover. The reason why is if there's a news item and this thing spikes 100 points, I'm going to get slipped really bad. Okay. Whereas if I had the order in place, you won't have that problem. So I'll just bang it. We touch the stop, I'm going to bang it out. All right. But ideally, you want to have your stop placed in this menu item in this order box here so that you avoid that problem. Okay, out. Okay, I bought them back. So, hey, man, it's going to happen. I tried it. It failed. Okay, no problem. I'm still going to work on the short side because we're bouncing right now. Now, we talked about in that bigger picture that was a highly probable bounce area, but it doesn't mean we're going to get that full bounce right now. So that's why I'm still willing to work on the short side. All right, so we'll see if we get another signal, especially if we get that signal here. I'll be happy to bang it. And this is going to happen, right? Sometimes we're going to get that, and the second signal may fail too. If that fails, I'm not going to continue. I'm just going to turn it off. I'm just not going to keep forcing something if it's not working. 1 or 2 losing trades, that's it, man. So we may get another signal here. This is a 30-second chart. There it is. Now, let me see what I'm going to do here. All right, I'm going to take it. I just shorted 2. Again, let's see how this goes. Let me check the 1-minute chart while we're at it here. Is there anything here? We got a pin bar on the 1 minute. 1 minute is potentially developing a signal. We have a heads up on the 1 minute. All right. So we'll give this 30-second another try. If it fails, that's it. I'm done. Okay. So I got 2 lots again, 2 micro lots. I'm going to switch this to 1 because if I get the opportunity to cover at the objective, I'd like to cover 1 there. All right, now, so yeah, ICT is a fake, okay? And anyone that believes that stuff, Friday's move was huge, yeah. That's right, UTXO. It was huge, but no, that was some move, and I was short, and I got out too early. Okay, that would have been a huge profit for this account. That would have been like $400 or $500. Okay, on 1 contract. So anyway, yeah. So ICT is a fraud. Google it. And again, I don't talk bad about people. I understand people they're all trying to do their own thing, and I usually don't mention specifics, but just Google that. Okay, I'm not the first one to say it. Let's just put it that way. And there's lots of evidence. Lots. All right. So where was I getting? I forgot what my original thing was before we got into ICT. Yeah, retail traders. Retail traders are misled. The reason why this game is so hard to begin with is because of poor information. And YouTube and TikTok and Twitter is just full of poor information. So people believe the nonsense that they're constantly exposed to, right? And that's why I keep telling people all you need are levels and support and levels and trend. That is all you need, because that is going to give you a bearing on what the market actually wants to do. Not what we think it wants to do, not what some oscillator says, none of that nonsense, because all that stuff is backward looking. Okay? We want something that's relevant now, especially for day trades. It's very important. So that's why this game is so hard, and that's why it takes so long to figure out, because you have to get over all the misinformation, number one. Number two, you have to get over your own emotional baggage, which we all have. All right. I mean, that's why it's taken me so long. I mean, it took me over 10 years just to see some progress. And part of that was because I was stuck in the misinformation loop for a long time. But back then, it was even harder to get information. You had to read books and you had to figure things out on your own, right? And I had no one to tell me what really was relevant and what wasn't. So I was stuck for years in a misinformation loop. On top of that, the getting over myself took a long time too. So, realizing that you don't know anything and that the market knows everything and all that other stuff, right? And all these other I'm just very slow in that area. So anyway, it took me a long time. Should it take a long time for the typical trader? Not if you have the right information, and if you could get over yourself faster. Really, that's a big part of it. Now, oh yeah, one thing I wanted to mention with the ICT thing. Google Larry Williams, right? Larry Williams is a legend. And I had the opportunity to meet him recently, okay? Because I went to this networking event for the CMT Association. He's involved with them. And I had the opportunity to actually talk to him. And I told him about ICT. I said, Larry, I said, you are actually responsible for a cult on the internet. And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, there's this thing. I said, are you familiar with Inner Circle Trader, whatever? He's like, yeah, it was my program. I said, yeah, well, there's this guy who calls himself ICT, which is what that means. And he got it from you. Because the guy mentions Larry Williams in an interview when people asked him about the origins of ICT. So I told Larry about this, and he was like, man, so that's why I don't like to share stuff with anyone, because they copy my stuff. And that's all he said. But it was funny. I said, Google it. Larry's an older guy, so he's not like all into like the social stuff. You'll find videos where he does interviews on YouTube and stuff, but he's not like, he's not like an Instagram kind of guy, if you know what I mean. So anyway, I thought that was funny. This trade is not working. All right, but we have to give it a chance. We have to let it go to the stop. And if it goes to the stop, the party's over. I'm done. Okay, now this market may look, this structure that we have right now, we have a higher low over here. It's going for the higher high. Not good for shorts. Okay, and I'm short. Also, this has turned bullish. Okay, so the momentum is bullish basically on this time frame. It's a 30-second time frame. So that's going to change a lot. All right, but we're fooling around. We have some resistance in the area here, which is represented by these other blue lines that we drew earlier. This is basically the overnight low and yesterday's low or whatever. That's what I marked out in the previous chart. If this stops out, let me prepare to bang out. Then that's it. I'm not going to trade it. I'm not going to trade a third time. Okay, so we got to preserve capital. Stopped out. Goodbye. 2 trades done. Okay, 2 losing trades. You have to respect the stops. Okay, now if the third one shows up and whatever, I'm not going to get involved, because for one, this changed. Right, that should still be bearish. I'm supposed to be going with the trend, with the momentum. The momentum's changing. I have a structure here, higher low. Okay, another higher low. Okay, not good for shorts. So we're still at this resistance. I mean, theoretically, we should still be working on the short side, but the problem now is this turned bullish, right? So what that means for the Trade Scanner Pro is it's not going to call another short. It's going to look for longs now. The only way it's going to call a short is if I switch into counter trend mode, right? Because I have to switch to counter trend mode if I want shorts, because this is bullish. right? So to get bearish signals, I'll just show you an example. To get bearish signals, I need to be in counter trend mode. And then now in counter trend mode, it will give me bearish signals. As you can see, it's giving me the heads up right now. And it's coming off that resistance. What time is it? All right. So we'll see what this looks like. But if you're going to be conservative and go with the momentum, then what you should do to go short would be wait for this to break. That would be the conservative thing to do, because you want the structure to turn back favorable for shorts if you're looking for shorts, right? Now, I may take this, I may do this with one contract if it gives a signal, because we are at a resistance. Interesting point is this is the counter trend. Look at they call the counter trend long right at that level right there. Interesting, right? When it called that. Now that level was not on the chart. That I drew that level from the 1 hour time frame, which means this level had to be put in first. But it called the signal at that location anyway. It also called one over here, which failed. It called one over here, which failed too. Right? Now, if this was a level that we could have anticipated before it got there, then that would have been great. But we couldn't have. All right. Now, let's see. If I get the signal, I'll take it. But that's it. That'll be trade number 3, and I'm done. In these sessions with the Trade Scanner Pro, even on a 30-second chart, I really should not have more than 2 or 3 trades. Ideally, like that's if you find that you're doing like 3, 4, 5 trades, that's too much, right? That means you're taking too many signals. There could be you may be dealing with a tendency to overtrade, right? So you have to be careful about that. So in these sessions, right, from 9:30 to 10:30, the first hour, typically you're only looking at 1 or 2 trades. And in an ideal scenario, if my first trade is a winner, I'm done, right? That's ideally what I would like. You win on your first one and you turn it off. Okay, the first one you have a losing trade. Okay, you try a second one. That one's a losing trade. Then, excuse me, the third one is then iffy. It's like, I don't know if I should take the third one. Now, in this case, we are at the resistance. The market has been bearish, generally bearish. I'm willing to give it a try. I said no before, but I'll give this third one a try. But if the third one fails, that's it, right? No more. You have to have a cutoff point. Three is okay. Like maybe the third one works. And if the third one works, then I'll make like half my money back or something. I probably won't make the whole trade back. I had 2 losing trades at about 40 points each, right? So that's $160 times 2. Signal going to appear there or no? Oh, this thing just turned bearish up here. All right, let me change. You have to keep an eye on that thing, right? That's why you get to watch that. Turn this off. Do I have a signal on my 1 minute? Nothing. Oh, wait. Yes, there's one. Oh, interesting. It almost got, this is a trade that's in play. All right, I'll take that. All right, so I just shorted 2. Now, let me explain what just happened here. So I was looking around. I'm willing, by the way, with the Trade Scanner Pro in this session, I'm willing to work between 30-second and 5 minutes. So that means I'll search, 30-second, 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, up to 5 minutes for trade ideas. I won't go beyond that, or I won't go higher or lower. Okay. So what happened here was a trade was called when we were messing around with the 30-second, right? And that second trade was called wherever it was called, I guess around here somewhere. The 1 minute, I guess at the bottom of that 30-second trade, that 30-second move, it called a trade. This trade's not working either. It called a 1 minute short. And that 1 minute short has been in play this whole time and almost stopped out, but hasn't stopped out yet. So sometimes you may see trade situations like this where a trade is in progress and you may have, or I should say, a signal is in progress and you may have the opportunity to get involved in it, even though you weren't involved at the actual open of the signal. It's okay. A lot of times, in fact, the trade that I took on Friday was a trade that retested it. What had happened, here, I'll draw it here. It had done something like this. The trade signal was generated, right? And by the time I looked at it, it was doing this. It was revisiting the entry price. The trade was actually open for like 5 minutes. The signal had been there for like 5 minutes or something like that. So by the time I got to the chart, it was retesting. So I said, all right, I'll take it at the retest. And I took the retest and it worked out. So my point is, you don't have to wait for the exact signal. If there's a signal in play, there may be a second opportunity to enter. Right now, that's something that's not really implicit. That's something you kind of have to just know from experience. And that's why I do these streams, so you could learn these things, right? So in a situation like this, the trade was in play. It's like, all right, I'll give it a try, and I'm not taking actually, since I entered at the bottom of this candle here, right, the bottom of this red candle, I'm actually not taking the full risk. This was my entry. My risk is up here. So 40 points, which was about the same risk I was taking on the 30-second chart anyway. So that's acceptable. Okay. Now, this is a 1-minute chart. The thing with this is, if this trade plays out, if it happens to go my way, this profit objective is way bigger than the 30-second profit objective. Okay. So this is 84 points, which is much bigger. The other one was like 60 points. Right. So I'm making 20 more points. When it comes to NASDAQ, that can be significant. All right, someone's saying something on the chart here. What are you saying here? I'm gonna put this up because I can't see it. 30-second time frame is too fast to rely on scanner for good trade. Okay, well, 5 minutes. 5 minutes is okay. The thing is, I'm showing a variety, because some people may like that 30-second chart. Like I said, on Friday, the 30-second chart delivered a huge trade, and the risk was relatively small. Like the risk, I forget what the risk was. I think it was like 35. It was similar to this, like 30 or 40 points, and it was like a 200 or 250 point move, right? So it was a huge move, and it came off the 30-second chart. That's nice when you can take a risk that small and capture a move that big, right? Because that really pays for a lot of losing trades. But I agree with you. 5 minute, and I always recommend 5 minute or even 15 minute, especially for beginners, because it's much slower and the signals aren't so frequent, right? And one of the reasons why I go on these smaller time frames too is because I don't want to sit here for 2 hours waiting for a signal when there's movement. There's things we can do, and I want to show that. But I personally trade these time frames anyway. I have no problem with 30 seconds, 1 minute, stuff like that. So it's just good learning experience. But when it comes to the prop firms, yeah, like you have to find the time frame that you like the most. Thing is, with like a 5 minute, you're going to have a much wider stop. Okay, keep in mind, the larger the time frame, the risk is going to get greater, but so is your profit objective, right? That's also going to widen. So you have to figure that out. Plus, the speed of the market will also help to determine that. If you're in a very, very fast market, sometimes the smaller time frames make a lot more sense because you're never going to get a signal on the larger time frame. And I only have this 1 hour window really where I'm doing this. So like I said, I can't sit here for 2 hours and wait for a 5-minute chart to show a signal. Now, if the market's very slow, then maybe a larger time frame would make more sense. So that's part of the judgment as well. All right, so this thing is trying to produce something here. This would have been nice if it was the first trade, but we look, and it looks like this resistance area held, okay, which is good if you're short. The resistance held. Now that resistance again came from the hourly chart, and this was the previous day's low, is what that was. So that's why when you first turn on your charts, you don't just look at your action time frame and make judgments off of that. You have to look at a bigger picture and get a sense of levels, especially the previous day's levels, because they can be relevant for today. All right, let me see. Someone's saying something over here. I have to pull it up over here because I can't see it. Okay, cool. Now remember, Friday, you were having a problem with the receiving the invite like a week ago. Is that correct? But you obviously, if you're talking about this like you are now, you must have gotten the invite because Stian fixed the problem. We figured out what the problem was. It wasn't you actually. It was something behind the scenes, and Stian fixed it. There was another guy too that also had a problem receiving the invite. He should have. Both of you should have received the invite email. I'm not sure if the other guy received it though. But the invite email went out because I get copies of all that. So I saw that the invite email went out. So by the way, if you're someone that's new and you're watching this, I don't get a big crowd here, especially new people. But if you're interested in the Trade Scanner Pro, I don't talk about a lot of the details of how it works on these streams because I want to get right to the point, and we're looking for trade signals. But there's a link in the description that has like a brief like orientation video that I had made a while ago that kind of goes over some basic details of the Trade Scanner Pro. So you could click that link if you want to know more about that. And obviously there's a link on the screen here if you want to try a 14-day trial for free. You can cancel anytime. Now keep in mind, guys, something that you guys may not realize, and I know this doesn't really matter because the people that probably this matters to aren't watching, but people that sign up for the yearly, you have to realize that that's a membership. And if you don't cancel that, you're going to get billed again in a year, right? So I have a bunch of yearly renewals coming up, and I'm going to have to try to send out an email to them because what's going to happen is they probably think they paid for it outright, and they're going to get billed again, and they're going to send me email, "Hey, you're stealing money from me." No, it's a yearly membership. It renews, and it says that when you sign up, but people don't read that stuff. So I'm going to have to send a reminder because I don't want to get 10 million emails asking me to cancel their thing and refund their money because, I'm not going to do that, especially if I send the email out. All right, what does this say? I received the invite. Okay. Oh, cool. On the euro. Oh, nice. Nice. Yeah, that's great. You could use this. Yeah, I'm going to put that up here. You could use that. You can use this thing on anything. You could use a Trade Scanner Pro on anything. You need momentum, right? That's the key thing. This is a momentum-based tool, and you need momentum. If there's no momentum, this thing is going to give you false signals all day long. You need momentum. That's why momentum is something that you can assume exists just based on time of day. Now, there are other ways to measure it, but 9:30 to 10:30 a.m. Eastern time, stock market, there's usually, if there's going to be momentum, that's probably the most probable time of the day. Right? And that's because it's the market open, and that's where you get your volume surge, right? Where there's volume, there's momentum. Compared to noon, which it starts to taper off, and then the afternoon, into the close, 2:30 to 4 p.m., there's some momentum, and there could be, but it's usually not the same as the opening session because there's less volume usually. You could just see it on a volume histogram. So you need momentum, especially for the day trades. Now, you say, well, what about swing trades? Swing trades are another story because it's not going to be the same. You're not looking at a market open for swing trades. So what you need is those momentum surges to help you along, but the trade timing is going to be it's going to be based on momentum on larger time frames. So the seasonality of it is not going to be the same. Like for example, a swing trade, like at the weekly open or something like that, there may be more volume in the beginning of the week, or you have to look at volume patterns. Okay. There are seasonal volume patterns. Like for example, just a very big picture pattern. I talk about this all the time. From about November to about April, that's where that's where volume is on the rise, right? And you go from lower volume markets to higher volume markets. Right now, we are in higher volume markets. That's why we get these wild moves. Like March, the month of March, we had some pretty wild moves that people are just like thrown off guard. But that's probable because we are at a peak volume, right? Compared to the second part of the year from like about May, June, going into August, right? The third, fourth week of August. The third or fourth week of August is the bottom of volume for the year. It's the lowest volume of the year. We all know why. Everyone goes away, right? So, but between May and August, volume declines. Volume is lowering. It's not like a light switch. It's not like, okay, we have high volume today. Okay, we have low volume today. It gradually tapers off. And in that process, moves get tighter. Moves are not as pronounced. Ranges are more likely compared to a situation like we have now where volume is at its peak. Does that make sense? So that's a sense of like seasonal volume. And people don't consider that. Volume is very important when it comes to momentum. People ask, do you use volume? Well, I use it in that sense. But I don't sit there. As you can see, I don't have a volume histogram on my chart. I don't use it like, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't use it like that. Like I don't use the histogram, right? I'm not using it expressly like that. Does that make sense? But it's important to understand volume seasonality of volume because it can help you with what? Your expectations. Not timing, but expectations. Like, if you're in a high volume environment and you're coming off of a major low, for example, like we had in the NASDAQ 3-4 weeks ago when it made the low the first time, right? Anticipating a significant move higher off of those lows is within reason because we're in a high volume environment. Compared to that, if we made that low like in August, then and I was trying to buy into that, I wouldn't expect much of a bounce. I'd expect it to take a lot longer. So it shapes expectations. Now, I could be wrong also. Keep that in mind. I'm not always right, but I like to at least have some general expectations that are based on what the market tells me. Right? I get some basic idea, and it usually leads me the right way. I'm not always right. Like I said, I can be wrong, but for example, if we're in a bullish environment, anticipating support levels to hold is reasonable. We may get a break at some point when the trend begins to change, but generally support holds. So most of the time, if I'm buying near support, I should get a positive result compared to what? Selling supports, right? Or buying resistances. Buying a resistance could work in a bullish environment. You get a breakout. In fact, it's more likely to work in that environment. But if you compare that to buying a support in a bullish environment, which scenario do you think has a higher probability? Right? You can answer that question for yourself. All right, so back to this trade here. I don't like that it's slow like this, but I'm still trying to give it a chance. Look at my trailing stop. My trailing stop has moved significantly. We're back. Look, the trailing stop is now at break even. Okay, see that? I'm going to erase this blue line over here because we don't really need that anymore. That was a resistance line that got broken. All right, so it's jumbling around here because the candle has to close. But essentially, this trade, I entered up here. Okay, so I got a little bit of a better price because this trade was in play when I took it, remember? But if I had entered at the entry price, basically at this point, this would be a risk-free trade. All right, does that make sense, you guys? I'll move it over here. I know my big head is in the way. I should probably shrink myself a bit. So what I don't like is I don't like these smaller. I don't like the consolidation that's happening here. but I do like the lower low attempt. Okay, here's our break even. But the problem with this is we're basically at the 50% pullback. If I measured this move right here, right, this low to this high, if I measured that, we're basically at the halfway point. Okay. People like to buy those. Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to stick, but it can stick. You see what I mean? See what I mean? And I'm short. So when the momentum, I was noticing these candles are like small and they're going into that level right there. It's like, that doesn't look good, man. We should be getting big candles. We should be blowing through it. See, now we go to that trailing stop. I'm going to have to bang this out. Now it's not a losing trade. It'll be a small win because remember my entry is here, right? I entered up here, so the trailing stop is below that. So it'll be a small win, but I don't want to bang it out because I want to capture the profit objective. But look, it doesn't matter what I think or what I want. The whole point in the Trade Scanner Pro is to simplify my decision-making process. So if it goes to the trailing stop, I should respect it and just get the F out, right? Because it's not up to me. It's up to the market. And sometimes when I make my own judgments, sometimes I'm right in getting out a little early, right? It depends on how aggressive or conservative I'm feeling, because that's what it is. It's a feeling. But on Friday, that cost me a huge trade, right? I still got out green, but the profit that I left on the table was enormous. So I was better off listening to the Trade Scanner Pro, which is objective, right? And that's really like the key feature of it is it helps you become more objective and it helps you with expectations. I just, when dealing with the NASDAQ, because I know how it works, like I know how wild it can be and how erratic it can be. It's like when I have a profit, I just want to take it, especially as a day trader, because I know what this thing can do, and it's annoying. It's like, oh man, I had a good idea that this thing was going to bounce in my face like that. And I just like to take profits. But again, that you can call that emotional baggage. It's not relevant to the market. And sometimes being too sensitive or too quick to make judgment, then you miss big opportunities. But there's also going to be times like this where you give money back. That's just part of the deal. Right? There's no perfect balance with that. It's just going to be one way or the other. I mean, if we touch a trailing stop, I'm banging it. So we'll see how that goes. Plus, I got to get off the stream anyway. See, here we go. I'm going to bang it. Just let it go there. Sometimes it like almost, there we go. All right, goodbye. Out. All right, so I got out of both of them. That was a small profit. Yeah, I could have used, you could have got that thing at the bottom. If we were at the profit objective, I would have taken it. I would have taken one off at least, right? You know how I like to do that. But hey, this is going to happen. Now, judging this wise, this is a higher low. This is also on the 1 minute chart. All right, so this momentum or this trend may be attempting to change. I mean, look at the structure here. We failed at this resistance. We should have basically worked our way back to this level or something, or produced a nice lower, clear-cut lower high and went lower. None of that. Instead, we have a higher low. Clear, super clear, higher low. We're likely to push this resistance now and make the higher high. So the structure's changing, and I need to change my expectations with that. Now, if we change, maybe we change back. Maybe it fails up here again, and then maybe we break this low. Okay, back to bear then. But right now, this is turning bullish. It's not officially bullish yet, but it's turning. And I want to keep that in mind, as I would continue to trade. All right, so you guys follow me on that? So any questions? Oh, my voice is a little messed up here. Can I move this over? I don't think I can move this over. What does this say here? Hold on. I want to move this. Can I move it? I can do this. Yeah, I can't really move it. Like I can't make my layout so that I could read the chat easier. It'd be nice if I could pop the chat out of the thing here. I don't think I can do that. All right, anyway, I'll figure that out another time. All right, any questions? So look, it's possible that the Trade Scanner Pro will give you another signal in this area. Again, I'm going to get off the stream here in a minute, so I'm not going to take that. We don't have any heads up or anything here, but keep in mind this trend changed to bullish. So if you want the short because of the level, which is really where the weight is, right? Then you're going to have to switch to counter trend mode. So you see how I'm switching? Now I'm getting the heads up on the counter trend mode. Interestingly enough, in counter trend mode, this thing called a long over here, right? But I really had no reason to be in counter trend mode in that area. So just because there's a signal there doesn't mean that would have been worthwhile taking. It only looks like that after the fact, right? If that level appeared, if that signal appeared here, then that would have made more sense because it's a support level. And by the way, that's when you use counter trend mode the most, is at support or resistance levels, because that's often when the market's going to turn and this trend is not going to be helpful because it's turning, right? That trend basically is saying that the momentum is bullish, but if it can't break that resistance, it's going to be a short. All right? Does that make sense? I know the Trade Scanner Pro is not going to be easy for someone that's like brand new. That's why it helps if you have some experience. And that's also why I'm doing these streams and I'm demonstrating it regularly so that I can answer questions and teach people how to use this thing properly. Because it's something that, again, it works really well if you have a system in place and you're just using it for confirmations. That's really what its purpose is, a confirmation tool to help simplify decision making. This thing is going to produce another signal if this thing closes here. But, I'd like to take it, but the thing is, I have to get off the stream. I'm going to stream again today at 3 p.m. I'll probably move it to 3:30. But I'm going to stream again today at that time. That's my normal Monday stream. Okay, that's normally when I stream on Mondays. And usually what I go through, we usually do the Trade Scanner Pro like half the session, and we trade Bitcoin. But that's usually a bad session to be involved anyway, because there's usually, momentum is very erratic and stuff like that. I've talked about that a lot. I'm not gonna do anything with this. I bet you if I check the 30-second, there's a trade there. Let's take a look. See? Oh, and look, it's moving nicely too. It's almost at the profit objective. Of course, I'm not in that one. Look at these trades, these counter trend trades, all failures except for the third one. So, when you see trades like that popping up, you don't just like be jumping around, oh, I missed it. You got to basically stick with one time frame. Work with one and just work with the trades on that one, because it'll drive you crazy otherwise. I could have jumped in that right now. Now it'd be going against me. That thing was halfway to the profit objective anyway. It wouldn't have been a good idea to jump into that. Right? So stick to like one time frame. That's usually the best policy, and just work with it. Let's look at the other one. Let's look around a bit. That's the 2 minute. How about the 5 minute? What does the 5 minute say? Nothing. Look, there hasn't been a signal on the 5 minute for like hours. Okay. So in a situation like this, it's like you simply wait for the next signal. And that may take a while. Here's a situation on the 30-second where it tried to retest the entry price. So if you were watching that and you were working on the 30-second, like, all right, maybe I take this one. When it turns red, it's turning red, okay, short. Basically, you're still shorting the bad price that it was at earlier, but what you have here is you have a lower high. So that should be more beneficial. The problem with this is, though, your risk is double the size. Your risk is up here still, right? And you're taking the trade here. That's the problem with something like that. So you're better off waiting till it touches the blue line and then giving you a red candle, lower high situation, right? Make sense? All right. Like I said, I'm not going to take another trade. I took 3 trades. Let's just take a quick look at the P&L over here. Here, let me turn this on. All right. Again, the reason why I have to do this is I honestly don't understand why people block this account number. Okay? It's my account number from Apex. It's an eval account. So what are people going to do? Go in. So what are they going to do? Request a payout for Monopoly money? I'm minus $313, man. That sucks. All right, but that's where I'm at. So I gave back, I was up $40 on this account. So now the account is at 49,727. All right, that's where it's at. So, we're going to track that number. I got to make $3,000. Today, this is why a day like Friday, when I miss a day like that, when I miss that kind of move, like I still would have been green because that day alone would have been over $500. So after a day like this, I'd still be minus like two. I would have, given $300 back, but I still would have been up $200, right? So that's why when you have to let a winner run when you get a winner. That's the whole point. So anyway, all right, I'll turn this thing off. Okay. So any questions? All right, you guys. So thanks for joining me for the stream. I hope you learned something. I hope you get something from this experience. Again, this is a journey that we're going through together. I don't know if the Trade Scanner Pro is going to be able to beat the eval. That's why we're trying this, and we're trying it in a way that's practical and in a way that's realistic, right? Because this is what you would be going through, right? Instead of me trying to beat them behind the scenes and then come out, oh look, everyone, I beat them. Hey, look, and you can too, right? A lot of fake gurus do that, but we're doing this so every trade that I take is going to be documented on the live stream. So if someone wants to go back and look at every trade, it will be here. All right. All right. Any questions? Anyone? Any questions? All right, you guys. So I'll be back at 3 p.m., probably 3:30 Eastern time, and we're going to do our analysis stream at that time. All right. So thanks for joining me. Enjoy the rest of your day, rest of your evening, wherever you're in the world. And again, thank you for watching.